Did you use your charger upstairs?
And go. What's up, guys? I'm Felix with your QuranTEA update for September 27th, 2020. Today, I have a couple of Black Lives Matters members here to talk about some faux arrests that took place last night here in Louisville while protesters tried to activate some actions. Chanel, would you like to talk about your experience?
Oh, thank you, Felix. It is so great to join you today. No, I'm just playing.
I said activate.
I heard you activate, but yes. So it was great to have a conversation with one of the action organizers today. Called us beforehand, and we were able to let them know what it is that we actually do during these actions, regardless if they're ours or not. We always provide whatever's necessary, and it's just based off of what type of action is. Being trained action organizers, there's a level of security that needs to take place, a lot of perimeter to see where folks are coming in at who aren't. I'm talking about the opposition, and right now that opposition is not only LMPD, that is militarized police forces, including the federal police and the National Guard, who seem to be playing spades at every corner that they keep blocking off.
They were.
They were. So if folks haven't known, there is a block in downtown Louisville that is cut off from the rest of the city. There's no traffic in and no traffic out. We are really looking like some Hunger Games out here. So last night, again, people were stuck at this one particular church, First UU, and other groups are opening up other sanctuaries, as they should, because people have the First Amendment right to protest wherever and whenever they want to. It's an emergency response. And I think for anyone that's been fighting on behalf of the Breonna Taylor family, and anybody that's been murdered by the state right now in the middle of a pandemic in this election year, it's all hands on deck, right? So we've been doing evacs. A lot of times that happens with our Care Bear team. But last night we were like, there might be a lot more than that. And so a few organizers were already getting hit with folks. So we tried to do some evacs earlier. There was no action movement. And then, some things went down. And we made sure that we were on the routes looking for folks, making sure people could, regardless of what you want to do as a protest, that's your First Amendment right. And just making sure people are safe. So we took a break and we got a call that several people were ready. 4 cars dispersed to go pick up folks at UU. The first 2 arrived. I got folks in a truck that we're using to move families. And then we had a van from our OKC folks. And we took off. And as we got to 2nd Street, we tried to keep driving. There were police lights behind us and 2 cars that came down the one way towards us. I tried to swerve to get away and they blocked us. And so with guns drawn again, asking us to get out of the car and put our hands out the car and just asking us what we were doing. And it was just like, Lord. So we didn't say anything. Everybody was removed from the car. Everybody was detained. And everybody was arrested.
Yeah.
We had citations written up. We were showing up at extra jail. We are still on the street. We have not made it to anybody's motherfucking paddy wagon. And all of a sudden, FBI comes up to me and is asking, am I the driver of the truck? And I'm like, probably. And they were like, well, we need to speak to the person that was driving the truck. And clearly the officer that removed me from the truck let him know that I was the driver of the truck. So he read me my rights, which is the first time I've had my rights said to me. And since it's FBI, I was like, nah, I want a lawyer, which is your right. We have to remember there are some rights to be had. And I am so glad that came up because we've been talking about how to get that out, y'all, please. So I lawyered up and he just kept asking me certain questions over and over again about this truck. And I'm just like, what about the truck? I know we've been riding around trying to find out where they are, where they're hemmed up at. There's several locations through Old Louisville they're sitting at just to watch for First UU. They are not sitting in adjacent neighborhoods like Smoketown and Germantown, or if you go a little bit further south and even to the direct west. So it's been really interesting watching where they're actually sitting up at, trying to hide people. Oh, I like that question. We'll talk about that in a second. So as he's asking me these questions over and over again, I just get frustrated because, you don't like people asking you questions. It's the same damn question. And I'm just like, well, just tell me what's going on with the truck. Why can't do that? You've already lawyered up. I was like, well, you keep asking me the same question about this truck. And you're saying, oh, you need to talk about it, but I've lawyered up, but you keep asking me the question. So I'm not understanding why we keep having this conversation. So he's like, all right, he walks away. So then like we wait a few more minutes. We already been out here. It feels like an hour or so, I guess, because we didn't get released until 3:15. And we just like, we're getting released. All right, y'all free to go. Y'all just processed us. Every officer got a citation in their hand. Y'all didn't went through everybody's belongings. Y'all didn't went through all the trucks, all the vans. So like, what was going on tonight? I haven't talked to legal counsel yet, which I need to, but yeah, it was just really a interesting situation around faux arrest, especially after a lot of really weird, interesting scenarios with LMPD, but also the federal police picking up people in those vans, which was a bit scary for folks.
So would you say that they were the agitators?
Absolutely, they were the agitators. I mean, they had us surrounded. It was like several police cars for no reason. There was not even any questions they were asking of us. When they came to us, me and Cherie were in the truck along with a few people in the back and one person in the cab with us. They immediately made them get out, and then like the folks that were in the van, they immediately made them get out. Even like one of the films they had up against the van. So I was just there like, I ain't heard a reason why I need to get up out this car or anything. And the first thing he says is, we violated curfew. I'm like, how we violating curfew if we giving folks a ride? What are you, Uber? And I was like, yep. You know what I'm saying? You haven't asked me. Hey, but you ain't asked me no credentials or anything, no licenses. Sorry, y'all, my allergies is really bad. You're not asking me for no license, no registration, none of that. None of that. Didn't even ask me for my ID. I told him where it was, but so I don't even know how they wrote my citation. But shut up, Tracy.
And OKC, can you guys describe the actual presence of the police and the National Guard from last night?
So, I guess what was very surreal for me was that it felt so familiar. We deal with the same type of intimidation, the same type of presence, over presence of policing and militarized institutions. And so when they rolled up, you would have thought that we were literal terrorists, which in Oklahoma, that is something that for doing the same type of actions, people have been literally charged with domestic terrorism. So my thought was, is this what we're going to actually deal with here in Kentucky? How similar are the actions and the laws centered around literally amplifying the voices of those that are saying Black Lives Matter?
Mm-hmm. I love that. So you said something really cool that I like, amplifying the voices. And that brings me to my next segue about these live streamers and security culture. How do you guys feel that they play a part, and how do you think we can kind of navigate the space between having them there and still getting the work done?
Yeah, I can answer that a little bit. Pronounce it here, he, she, they. I tell people all the time, the police will sit there and literally watch the live stream. Been in DC. I'm from DC, where I've been organizing over the summer. And they will sit there and take people live streams and take people photos and their pictures off of these live streams to identify people later on to send out warrants, stuff like that. So I tell people, if you're going to live stream, make sure that you're filming the police. And if you're filming like a crowd of people, make sure you film like just the body on down or something like that, so that they can't use facial recognition programs to like recognize people's faces later on. Make sure that you're doing whatever you can to protect yourself, because the same tools that we use, like you think some of these people watching a live stream are just like supporters from around the world, around the country, but some of them are just police officers literally just sitting there watching. I say they know where you're moving because people are live streaming saying, oh, we're about getting ready to march, we're leaving from like First UU, we're going to march down to the square. The police are, okay, cool, we're watching this live streamer and they just told us exactly where they're going to go, and we're catching people's faces. We recognize that person from maybe breaking a window a few weeks ago, so now we have a better photo that we can use based off the live stream. And that goes into the question I was asked earlier, like what can protesters do against drones? What remedy do protesters have against drones? We are not even sure. We sent the Louisville protest. I tell people all the time, one thing you can do, one, don't try to shoot the drone down, because you don't know whose property it is. You don't want to catch another charge or bring more attention. But those drones are most likely just camera surveillance by LMPD or Homeland Security or some federal agency that is here in Louisville. One thing you can do is umbrellas. Umbrellas are great tools to have. Have an umbrella so that they can't take aerial shots of you or know how many people are physically there, because the umbrella is, covering area. Umbrellas are also great things to use as a shield. If there's like a tear gas canister, you can use that as a shield. We used it over the summer in DC when we were being tear gassed, to use it to block people bodies and to get people safely, away from the tear gas canisters. We saw people use umbrellas in Charlottesville, when Heather, when she was hit by the car, to protect her image or her body, from the media press from taking photos. They had like a wall of umbrellas and signs to literally cover up, to make sure that these people identities are being hidden, so that the media and the press and other people can't take their identity. So umbrellas to me are a great tool. They're easy to find at CVS, Walgreens. I'm not endorsing any store, but I'm just saying. Unless they want to pay me, I will tell you exactly where to go with.
Check. Okay, so that is a great security advice right there. But let's talk about Sanctuary.
Oh, hello, April.
Hello, April from BLM DC. Hello with the defund MPD. I love that. Yeah.
Listen, I should have worn my defund MPD t-shirt, y'all.
Chanel, do you want to talk about what Sanctuary actually means for this city and how that can help us moving forward?
Yes. And our direct target when we're talking and we're doing these lives and stuff, y'all, is the Black community only. So that might feel a certain type of way. But anytime we have direct messages for our folks and our people, it is very clear that other folks want to interrupt that and then make it about something else. There is an entire police force who is targeting Black folks in this city in a response of a Black woman not receiving justice, a man getting sentenced and a bond of $15,000 for the bullets that missed her body. They have decided that our First Amendment rights mean nothing and that we need to be patrolled not only by the National Guard and the police. The Navy rode up in here, the Air Force is here, the federal police are here, and the Army is here. So who did you think you were getting ready to meet on the ground but the people who live in Louisville? With that is to understand that Black folks have been asking and have been demanding for pastors and preachers to open up their church, especially if you are in these neighborhoods where these folks come from, but around this area. The area that is blocked off is 2nd Street to the west, Broadway to the north, 9th Street to the east, and then Liberty to the south. That's just that small little block. There are hundreds of churches in downtown Louisville, and you can make it a place where people can come in and not only just want to build faith or build spirituality in a time that is very tough and a time that people need healing. And we know what the church means for a lot of us, regardless of whether you're, remotely religious or not. It also means that you can come get a meal. It also means that you can come congregate with people who share some of the same views as you. And it also means this should be a safe place, regardless of whoever is coming after you. So I think we really have to reevaluate the way that we are thinking about holding community and safety and defense for our folks if we can't even open up the buildings that baptized us to us.
Yeah, I was telling people last night, I was not pulled over. I was inside the church last night where people was getting all types of things. It reminded me of the night on Swan Street in DC where we had all these minors and people, being corralled and kettled. And you had one person on the street. Everyone clapped, when they saw the protesters coming down Swan Street in DC. But then when the police started coming out, only very few people opened up their doors. I was fortunate enough to literally knock on someone's door like, hey, I need sanctuary. And it reminded me of a modern day Underground Railroad. But the day after that, we started seeing people with their porch lights on as a signal to say, hey, if something happens, you need a place to run, this place you go. People were leaving lanterns on their steps to let us know. I remember over the summer, theaters around DC started open. Shout out to Woolly Mammoth and all these theaters around the city that say, "Hey, our lobby is open to protesters. There's food, there's water, there's places for you to use the restroom." And so that's the type of sanctuary I think is needed here in Louisville as well. Whether it's a church, where you can go. I mean, people were able to let out their grievances last night in a way that they were being heard last night. They started singing and chanting at some point, knowing that to me is a form of Black resistance and Black joy. And this moment where our Black bodies are being vilified and killed, and then continue to be vilified and like brutalized beyond our deaths. So I think it's important for churches and even just as a call to individuals. If you live close to downtown Louisville, leave a signal. All these Black Lives Matter signs in these yards. Mm-hmm. But that makes you feel good. But what about when these Black bodies need your help?
I want to lift up that you all keep protesting in the Highlands. The Highlands is not your enemy. When you are protesting, you need to protest in an area where it is going to be effective to disrupt business as usual. And if that means that they are upset and they are irritated, great job. But the Highlands is not it. So when you go to the Highlands, people are sending us their address to tell folks, hey, run in here if something is getting worse. You'll notice that they're not the ones calling the police. So that's why the police look a bit unnerving and weird. They are not able to like defend a space that actually wants to see that. So a lot of the folks and a lot of white people that you're out here protesting with literally come from that area. There are a lot of liberal people, but there are also a lot of progressive and very much abolitionists that live in the Highlands and do this work. Yeah, because I like a lot of people be talking I will talk about it later. But maybe
on the next live, on the next quarantine.
I want to go ahead and kick it to Cherie, because Cherie is actually a reverend. So what's your
I was going to say that with your institutions of faith, a lot of these entities have started to uplift their social justice or racial equity platforms or ministries within their church. And this is one of the many things that they can do. And this is the least, opening your doors. And that does not depend on what the particular faith basis is for your congregation or your denomination. We should be able to coexist. And so if they really want to be in community with those that they should be trying to protect, we do expect protection and allyship from our white allies. And that certainly extends to our faith-based systems.
Josh, you want to say something about white allies?
Well, so I guess
he's white?
Yeah, apparently. So one of the things that I think too, a lot of people who could provide sanctuary or aid to people, they don't know enough of the history. So like seeing the FBI out there, I thought of Fred Hampton, right? I mean, when you have federal agencies that work with local police departments to literally assassinate Black leadership, right? That protection is very literal. It's absolutely necessary. If you call yourself an ally or an accomplice or someone who's an abolitionist, but you're not going to help literally protect people, then it's small talk. At a cocktail party, and that's it.
All right, cool. Josh, you've been kind of quiet, so let's throw it back to you again. And can we talk about the relationship between protesters and the media, especially if we're going to try to kind of condense down on the live streamers?
So one of the things I think is really important for people to understand is that when live streaming, you need to check the area that you're live streaming from, because there are also like facial recognition software programs that are used to identify people, right? And it's so the police and other surveillance systems of the state really don't have to do any work. They just need to sweep in and come arrest people, because very often if you're live streaming, and you haven't checked and done the work ahead of time to prepare, then you're literally giving them the evidence and you're identifying yourself. And more than that, and I know that this, right. Well, and you're right, exactly. And that can be really difficult too, because I think a lot of people with great intentions also end up identifying people who don't want to be identified in the crowd. Mm-hmm. And that's incredibly important to make sure that you're not doing that. Because there might be some people who have charges. There might be some people who have been in prison. They might be felons, who knows? And they might not be allowed to be out there, but they should have every right to be out there.
And you might have some who also do not need to be identified because they are not in a safe space, right, because of relationship. We don't want to cause issue with people's livelihood. But we see a lot of allegations of people basically saying, those of us that are consistently doing this work, that we are informants, when the reality is that many of those that are doing what I call the jaw jacking are the ones that are actually providing all of the evidence. They are the ones that are giving intel, data. They do not protect their technology. They make it very easy to be able to access. And so many people are actually making other people targets, and they're not the ones who also, the people who are making it dangerous for us are not the ones that are out here taking the risk and putting, excuse me, their lives on the line simply to stand in community with
Oh,
one
I
another.
just moved to Kansas City, Justice. Sorry.
Oh, hey, Justice.
Yeah,
Sorry,
you know, I
y'all.
just moved out there.
Chanel, did you want to talk about the relationship between protesters and the media?
Yes, that's Bell Fun family right there. I had to say hi. Yeah. So
Yeah,
I, I was sorry.
We love our people, y'all.
Hey,
April is
we
my
do.
sister.
I'm talking about like when we talk about movement work and we talking about putting your life on the line. We're talking about putting your life on the line. So I want to make sure like we are actually amplifying when we're talking about protesters. We're talking about a specific role of people who do action, who are moving action. Not everybody is going to be a protester, and not everybody has to be a protester. And there are people who are out there who are not protesters, who are doing work to supply and help folks. And I wanted to lift that up because yes, there have been folks who have been arrested who have not been protesting, who have been like carrying water, who have been wherever. And we cannot allow the police or any other form of the system to define who we are when we are out here in these streets. Organizers have a large responsibility of making sure that everybody in any role is protected. And so we keep writing down notes and stuff. I'm looking over here.
We're professionals.
Yes, no.
So when we're talking about, I wanted to lift up like some of the things people are saying too, this allyship and with the church, it's just like at church, right? You got the choir director, you got the people who sing in the choir, you got the altar boy. I'm sorry, we're Catholic. And you've got what, the deacon, you got I'm Catholic, so you have the priest.
I was like, you got a lot of, you grew Catholic.
Oh, y'all do communion the cute way. I like APG.
You got the body over here, the blood over there. Listen, wow.
That Merlot in the cup. So
Yay! See, I got it together over there. I'm trying to be one of y'all.
we're talking about like, yes,
I'm
we're talking
converting.
about how all those roles work, and all those roles work together in the church. So there's not any type of way that you can't understand and fathom like how that works when you're trying to move, not just movement work, but a campaign. You have all these roles. So who are these people that you need to make sure that are going to be okay in your church? So yes, it's fine to go do the preaching and all of that. But some people just need to know that like they can come somewhere and be safe. They need to know that they can decompress, because decompression is a real thing. We carry PTSD all over our bodies. We watched last night as some firecrackers went off and people start running, and we were like, those are not gunshots. I mean, we shouldn't have to know those things, but we do live in a society where like gun violence is a part of this. I mean, gun violence took Breonna's life, took Shelby's life, took DeMonje's life. So we're talking about like, how are we getting ready to defeat this system? You've got to be able to like not only talk about what it is to be white or Asian or whatever else at your church, at your place of worship. If that's what you want to do, just talk to the Presbyterians like a few weeks ago. You cannot possibly be sharing the same God if we're not talking about how anti-Black it is, if you're not talking about liberation. And we're not just talking about theology. We're talking about actually putting it into practice and moving that work to where, yes, you say, I want to abolish prisons. Yes, I want to get rid of police. You know what? They don't have any grocery stores. This is, I could not imagine not going grocery shopping on Saturday, Jill. So yes, those are the things that we're talking about. Food apartheid is genocide, and so is gentrification. So those are the things that can be talked about at the pulpit. You can do that and move it.
Yeah. Also, want to talk about when we talk about the role of allyship with churches. Realize that churches, for a lot of Black people, have been the source of their harm. You know, so like, what does it mean to like go from a place of harm and to like then try to become a place of sanctuary? You know, like do some type of restorative something.
Oh yes,
you know, transformative. No, some churches and some communities are part of the gentrification process. You know, bring it or having white churches in Black neighborhoods where these white people come in and they have their little sanctuary, literally their sanctuary, and then leave and they're not part of the community. So what does it look like for these communities and these churches and these places of worship to like finally take the Crown Royale, honey.
Sorry, y'all. We had a very stressful night. I almost got picked up by the fucking feds.
We were up to 6 a.m., y'all.
Yes, and y'all answering the wrong question.
We are. What was the question?
I think the role is.
We're looking at stuff at the bottom.
I think the role of the church.
Oh, y'all answered that question. Okay, I'm sorry, y'all. At the bottom, I have my own list of questions.
Oh yeah, sorry. Okay. Go ahead. I was trying to answer the question from the people.
No, I want you to talk about the Citizens Review Board and what we can do to like take steps to protect ourselves.
I like how you said earlier today, y'all don't know, like we wake up with each other, whether or not we're in the same room with each other.
Right.
We have a Zoom every day when we're not like all day with each other.
We're texting all day.
But we also just like wake up and just check in on each other. And so Felix had made a point earlier that Felix collect them. That we were talking about, we have got to rebuild our communities. And I think when we're talking about rebuilding from our perspective is like, there's nothing that is like essentially broken. We are still there for each other. Like when you go into the deep hood, when you go in deep poverty, people are making sure that you have food. The hood cooks couldn't cook during coronavirus. So we made sure that we can bust out like 50 meals a piece for these folks. And we give out like 300, 350 meals a day to like folks who are just on the street who don't get fed by Feed Louisville in the hood. I just want to make sure that that's clear. I'm not being petty, but I'm just like, when you make certain systems for certain people and you put on a show, that goes over there. And there are people who are entirely left out. And there are communities in the West End that people still use as commodities. And we are not anybody's token. Ooh. And so when we need, and in this moment, you're seeing why it's important that we need the citizens to have their own voice when it's the adjudication over systems and institutions like the police. People who come into our neighborhoods, regardless if we ask them or not, they are patrolling, they are policing. That's what that means. Then we need to have that control. Right now, that Citizen Review Board sits with the city. And it is not moving. And you have not heard about that unless you are tied into the city or you're watching one of their little views or whatever. So yes, definitely visit Invest Divest to learn more information, but talk to whoever is like building any type of community in your neighborhood. Like start there. And there's all different types of community groups. Don't think that you have to be a large grass top organization or you have to be a nonprofit to move work. You do not have to be a nonprofit to be a community organization. You can be a group of people being able to move work where you are. And then you are able to make these decisions on what safety looks like for your neighborhoods. When we're talking about like what's coming out of the investigations, I know a lot of people are popping off about like what's being held back from the investigations. How do we know that if we haven't had those conversations with each other? Who is representing Shawnee when we're talking about like what's going on? Who is representing Parkland in California, who is getting ate up with policing and patrolling when we're talking about what it looks like with situations of street teams? Like those street teams weren't only out there out Dixie. Those street teams are every day in Russell and in California. So that was a big defeat when we passed Breonna's law. Those are some of the things that I wanted to bring up as we start like really pushing these actual demands that are going to systemically change what policing looks like for Louisville.
I love that. Well, I thank you guys so much. Anybody else have anything they want to touch on before we get out of here?
Hashtag free all my, can we cuss on here?
Yeah.
Hashtag free all my niggas.
Okay.
You can't say that.
You know, said I could.
I didn't know that was the word he was gonna say.
I was watching.
How would you follow that? How do you follow that? As an ordained minister, I just say yes, and I say.
I thank you guys. OKC BLM. Thank y'all for visiting us and helping us out this weekend. Thank you, Chanel. Thank you, Treyance. Follow BLM on all their social media sites, BLM Louisville, and we'll be back with another update for you guys soon. I'm Felix. Bye, babies.
Bye.
Bye.